PJ was my firstborn, a healthy 8-pound, 8-ounce baby boy. And when he was 3, we added a little brother to the picture, and life was wonderful. PJ had just turned 4 a couple of months earlier, and he developed a lump behind his ear. So we took him to the pediatrician. He sent us into Children's, where he had a biopsy, and we were informed that he had rhabdomyosarcoma. The tumor was actually wrapped around his carotid artery, so this made treatment much more risky and much more difficult and more limited in what they had to offer to a 4-year-old. PJ had to get several chemotherapy drugs once a week, every month, and then he also had 30 days of radiation initially, so he would go Monday through Friday for 6 weeks for radiation. After the first round of chemotherapy, he was sent back to Boston once again to the Boston Children's Hospital, where he underwent a 22-hour surgery to remove the tumor. They had to remove facial nerves and graft them from his legs, and remove bone and graft it from his hips. So the side of his face was swollen. He was paralyzed on the side of his face. PJ was very uncomfortable about his appearance, and we would go in restaurants, and there were people that would turn around and stare at him in his chair. PJ was just 6 when we found out that the cancer had returned in his knee area, and it was in his lungs. It was almost continual treatment. He had a month or 2 here or there, but pretty much it was straight through. And his only break was camp. The first day he went, he was assigned to a wonderful, wonderful counselor, Dave Regan, and they immediately took to each other. Dave and him became best friends, and Dave never left his side, and PJ never left Dave's side from that day on. PJ's last Christmas was just a month before he passed away, and Dave came out in a snowstorm with a monster truck for him, and when it didn't work, he went back to Toys R Us in Blaisdell and got PJ a different truck, came back in the storm, and spent time with him in his home where he was most comfortable. The last few days, we had essential care, the pediatric home care program. He had been on morphine at that point, and his pain was getting worse and worse. The side of his face was very swollen at this point. That evening, my husband had gone to bed, and PJ and I were in the living room, and he was laying on my lap, and he was looking around the living room. And I said, "Honey, what are you looking at?" And he said, "My house." And those were the last words he spoke. The increase in morphine put him into a coma. Friday morning, I woke up, and I looked at him, and he was still in the coma. And I said, "Honey, do you want Mommy to hold you?" And he got the biggest smile on his face. And I ran into the bedroom and scooped him up in my arms. And it was about 3 hours after that I could just feel him fading away. And I just said how much I loved him, and that it was okay, that he needed to be with Jesus. And his other little friends, his friends from camp, his friends from Roswell, it was just time for them to all be together and be whole again. PJ turned 8 on January 14th of 1990 and passed away on January 26th. He was in my arms, and he died with a smile on his face. It's so hard to put into words what Camp Good Days means to me, because Camp Good Days is bigger than life. It gave my son a chance to be away from the treatment he was going through, the hospital experience that most of his last 4 years had been. He could be a little boy. I just wanted to give back. And the absolute best way I could give back is to give to some other children what camp did for my family. When I'm working with the kids at camp, I do think of PJ. I think of these children are happy the way that camp made him happy. To see what they do for all of the kids, knowing firsthand seeing this is how he felt. This is how happy my son was, more than he could ever be anywhere else outside of with his own family. This is what camp does for these children. There is nowhere on earth that I could believe could ever make these children as happy as Camp Good Days does.